So what's up guys, welcome back to another YouTube video, and today's video I wanted to talk about dietary manipulation when it comes to a dieting phase or a contest prep as well. Now a lot of people will probably watch this video and think it's very simple and basic on what to do, but this is a question that I still get often asked, and the way I look at it is, if a lot of people are still asking this question, then a majority of those people just still don't fully understand of what to do when it comes to making those dietary manipulations. So I wanted to do a video to talk about what I personally would do, my opinion with myself and what I do with my clients to get the best results. First of all, what we need to make sure is what underpins weight loss is a caloric deficit. That is it. That is the law of thermodynamics. You cannot change it. For us to lose body fat and for us to lose weight, we just need to be in a caloric deficit. There's either two ways we can do this: by reducing the amount of calories that we eat, or increasing the amount of energy that we expend, so moving more or eating less. That's simple terms. So now we've got that out of the way, like I said, I want to talk about, first of all, setting up a diet plan, and then how to make those dietary manipulations effective. So setting up a diet plan, of course, is going to be person dependent. I'm not going to talk about how to set up in this video. What you need to do is you need to find out what your caloric intake is to put you into that deficit, and then obviously what your macro ratio is going to be. So go off and do that and then come back to this video. But if you're somebody who knows what your caloric status is and what your macros should be, now it's about setting up your diet plan. So first of all, what I like to do, and I'm going to use my diet as an example. So I'm currently at the moment on 200 grams of carbohydrates, 40 grams of fats, and 300 grams of protein. The first thing I would always do is the amount of protein that you're consuming, I would divide that by the amount of meals that you're eating per day. So for me, I'm eating 6 meals per day. I'm having 300 grams of carbohydrates. Protein. I would divide 300 grams by 6 meals, and then that's how many grams of protein I'm going to have in every single meal. Now that will never change from the beginning stages of my diet all the way up to the end stages. That will always remain the same. It is never going to change. Then afterwards, I'll look at my fats. So I'm consuming 40 grams of fats. Now, some of the places where I personally would like to implement my fats would be first thing in the morning, sometimes around the pre-workout, just to help slow the release of carbohydrates during your training session. I would never put them in my post-workout, because in the post-workout meal, what we're trying to do is try and take in fast-acting carbohydrates to get into the bloodstream and then help repair the muscles as quick as possible. Fats is just going to blunt that process. So avoid fats in your post-workout meal. The only other places where you could put them is either your pre-bed meal or any other meal furthest away from the workout. So those are the places where I put my fats. And then when it comes to the carbohydrates, I like to keep them as close to the workout perimeter as possible. So this is going to be the pre-workout, intra-workout if you do use intra-carbohydrates, and the post-workout window. Now if you're somebody who's consuming a fair amount of carbohydrates because you have a very efficient metabolism and you just burn through carbohydrates like there's no tomorrow, then hypothetically speaking, let's say you're consuming 600 grams of carbohydrates, I wouldn't just cram all those 600 grams around that workout, because that's going to be a lot of stress on your digestion. So personally what I'll do is I'll put a large majority around the workout. So let's say 400 grams will be around the workout, and that will be divided between the pre-workout, intra-workout and post-workout meals, and then I'll spread the rest of the carbohydrates with the other meals throughout the day. So what I would then do after this, we've got that all established with our macronutrients. Proteins will be divided evenly between all the meals that we're consuming, and they will never change. The fats would be in the morning, pre-bed and pre-workout meal for the larger majority of us, and then the carbohydrates are just going to be all around the workout perimeter. Now when it comes to us hitting a fat loss stallment where we're no longer losing fat, our metabolic rate has adapted to the new intake of calories, we're no longer burning anymore, we're not in a deficit anymore, we need to make some manipulations to our macronutrients. So then it comes to, where do we make these manipulations to put ourselves into a further deficit? Now what I always prescribe with my clients is to not touch the workout meals. So the pre-workout, the intra-workout and post-workout, we want to try and keep those as consistent as long as possible. So not changing the macros or not taking anything out of those meals for as long as we can. And we want to start taking bits and pieces out of other meals away from the workout meal, because the workout perimeter is the pivotal stage. This is where we need to make sure that our training performance is optimal and that we're not impeding our recovery capabilities. Because if we are not fully recovering, that is obviously going to have a knock-on effect on our next training performance. Our strength will somewhat diminish, and then our next recovery session won't be able to recover, and then so on and so on and so on. So we want to make sure that we are optimizing our training and our recovery. So that is why the workout meals I would always try and keep as consistent for as long as possible and not touch those meals. So like I said, if you're somebody who's consuming a large amount of carbohydrates and you've got some extra carbohydrates in your morning meal and your pre-bed meal, I would start taking, first of all, your carbohydrates away from the furthest meals from the workout. So that's going to be your morning meal and your pre-bed meal. So I'll take, how much, it would be person dependent, but you want to take something like 10 to 20 grams away from your pre-bed meal, or 10 to 20 grams from your morning meal. That's obviously going to take a certain amount of calories away, and that's going to put your body into a further deficit. If you're still not losing weight, then you just take more away, to the point when you're no longer having any carbohydrates in your morning meal or in your pre-bed meal. And then once you get to that stage, you'll start taking carbohydrates away from the next meals. So either meal 2 or the meal prior to your bed meal. And then again, you'll keep taking away from the furthest meals from the workout and then gradually come in. Now, there will come to a stage, and again, it'll be person dependent, depending on how many calories you started on with and how many macros you started out with as well, that you will eventually have to start taking some carbohydrates away from the workout meals. That's just the nature of what we have to do. There will be a stage where you might have to be only on 25 to 30 grams of carbohydrates pre-workout and only 50 grams of carbohydrates or even 40 grams of carbohydrates post-workout. It depends on where you're at with your condition and obviously things like your body type, your metabolism. Because once we are in the dog end of the prep, the calorie intake is going to be very, very low for the majority of us. Our energy output levels is going to be maxed out, and we have no other choice than to reduce those calories and those macros further with our diet. So that is just the case. You know, we will try and do what we can to avoid touching that pre, intra and post-workout meal for as long as possible. But for the large majority of us, there will be a stage where we will have to start taking some macros from those meals. That is just what we have to do in order to achieve our goal. So don't fret if you are somebody who gets to that stage where you now have to go down to 30 grams of carbohydrates for your pre-workout meal. If that is what you have to do in order to create that larger deficit and for you to drop that body fat, that is what you have to do. I know some people, and these are big guys as well, that had to go down to like 25 to 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. That's just what they had to do in order to achieve their goal. That's just the nature of this sport. There will be points where we will have to push our body to extreme levels. We will have to restrict calories to a very, very, very low amount. It's not an easy path, this journey, you know. If we're just looking for general weight loss, then of course it isn't going to be as extreme. But if we're looking about contest prep and stepping on stage and getting that peeled look, these are some of the extreme measures that we will have to take. So that's what I would always do with myself and with my clients. I would always divide, like I said, the protein evenly between the amount of meals I'm consuming per day. Again, that will also be person dependent. It doesn't have to be 6 meals. It could be 4 meals. It could be 5. It could be 10 meals. However many meals that you are consuming, divide the protein between all of those meals and keep that consistent. Never change your protein. Then the fats, again, divide those between certain meals, but avoid them in your post-workout meal. And then the carbohydrates, keep the large majority of them, or all of them if you're consuming a low amount like myself, 200 grams, around that pre, intra and workout meal. And then start taking away furthest and then gradually bring yourself in to the point when you're now having to take away from that pre and post workout meals. That's what I personally like to do when it comes to dietary manipulations, and that way I'm able to optimize my training performance for as long as possible through a dieting phase, and I'm also making sure that I'm not impeding my recovery capabilities. So if you sit there and think about it, it's pretty simple. But as I said at the start of the video, a lot of people are still asking this question, and in my eyes, if people, and a large amount of people, are asking the question, then I'm going to do a video and talk about it. So hopefully that will help a lot more people understand what to do when it comes to setting up a diet and making those dietary manipulations. So hopefully this video did help you out and it made a bit of sense. Sometimes they may ramble on a little bit, but hopefully it was nice and clear for you guys. If it was, give this video a thumbs up for me. If you have any other questions regarding this topic or any other topics that you want to talk about, always just drop a comment down below and I'll get a video done for you guys. Other than that, make sure you stay safe as always, and I'll see you on that next video. Peace.
Chasing shadows, they're always on